Okay, I'm here to talk about Miley's second session at the NCAT tribunal at 86 Goulburn Street in Sydney. And we had 4 days last year and we've just finished 3 days this year. And the first day was a very interesting day. It was quite exciting at the beginning because I was outside the courtroom an hour before the proceedings commenced at 9 o'clock, and I was joined by approximately 60 other people who welcomed Miley to the hearing with a chant, which was a sort of a lovely way to start. And she went up a sort of colonnade of people, waving like a rock star or a celebrity. And it was lovely to see her face beaming, this smile beaming. She'd obviously had a very broken night's sleep the night before. I later found out she'd had 1 hour's sleep, I think it was. Anyway, we went into court at 10 o'clock and the judge singled me out of the crowd. And he asked me to step up to the front of the courtroom where a microphone had been set up. And he asked me to speak into the microphone and give my name, full name, address, and the reason why I was attending the tribunal, which he'd seen me at for 4 days previously, the year before. So I felt quite privileged to have the opportunity to put on the court record my identity and the reason why I was at the court. And I clearly stated my name, address, and my reason I gave as I was gravely concerned for the justice or the injustice that I perceived was happening in this courtroom. He then went on to give the reason why he'd singled me out, and that reason was that the previous year, after the 4-day hearing, I was sitting on my tram going down George Street, minding my own business, when he stepped onto the tram literally right in my face, and it gave me quite a shock. I was talking on the phone at the time, and he hung around me and he overheard my conversation, and he repeated word for word the conversation that I'd had with a person on the phone. He then went on to tell the courtroom that he'd then moved down to another part of the tram and that I had followed him to that part of the tram and that I had made eye contact with him down at that other part of the tram, and that he felt that my intention was to intimidate him. I found that quite amusing, as on face value I felt that he was stalking me. I felt that it was more than a coincidence that he would step onto a tram that I happened to be on, literally the day after I'd seen him in the courtroom. Anyway, be that as it may, the proceedings commenced and went on, and in the afternoon, after a day of the ridiculous, nonsensical cross-examination that was taking place, that I produced a facial expression that he described as a grimace, not a grimace, which is how I would pronounce it, but he pronounced it as a grimace. And for my grimace, or grimace as he put it, he ejected me from the court. So I was a little bit bemused by this. I thought, is this man singling me out? And is he only denying me facial expression? Or is he sending a message to all those spectators? There were about 15 of us in the courtroom. We filled the public gallery, which was about 15 seats. And I thought, is he sending me a message, or is he sending the other 15 people in the courtroom a message that you don't have the right to freedom of facial expression? Freedom of facial expression is something that doesn't exist in the, well, it certainly doesn't exist in Judge Levy's courtroom. There is no right of free facial expression. look, day 2 was very depressing, and we've just finished day 3, and I've got mixed feelings about it. I mean, we had fun, we had a laugh, we had a giggle. I even made a joke on day 2 at the end of the proceedings when we all left the courtroom. One of the sheriffs ran out and said, "Oh, somebody's left a red bag behind." And I thought to myself, here's a golden opportunity to test the state of the world. So I said to the sheriff, "Is there a ticking sound coming from the bag?" And all my friends and colleagues were shock horror. What is that naughty Tony Wakeham doing? Anyway, the sheriffs, all 4 of them, broke into stitches of laughter, which was quickly followed by us laughing along with them, because they still have a sense of humour. So that was a very encouraging sign. The other encouraging sign was that when I was kicked out for my grimace, I had a chance to speak in private with the sheriffs that were outside. And we talked about a sheriff's duty, to which I had some knowledge based on the fact that I'm a personal friend of John Wilson's. And when I mentioned John Wilson to the sheriffs, they all said, "Oh yeah, we know John Wilson. God, John Wilson." And I said, "Do you know John Wilson's backstory?" And they were totally unaware of what John Wilson's... So over the next 20 or 30 minutes, I explained John Wilson's backstory. The fact that he was a dentist, the fact that he'd borrowed money in the late 80s or early 90s, and the fact that he'd gone from single-digit interest to double-digit interest, and that he objected to that. And his review of the law showed that a contract, one of the prerequisites for a contract is a thing called certainty. And that when you have variable interest rates, there is no certainty. And he's been fighting that battle for 33 years. He's had 5 jail sentences that he's served, but he continues to fight, and he believes that he will win his land back that he bought 33 years ago. He will regain, because he believes it was illegally stolen from him. And all the sheriffs were entranced by this, because they just thought he was this crazy old guy that was, psychotically deranged. They didn't realise that he actually had a genuine story. So there's a possibility that I may have opened the eyes of all the sheriffs that all know John Wilson, because he's a regular person that goes to court. And maybe I might have shifted ever so slightly the sheriffs of this nation to understand John Wilson's plight a bit better and do their duty to ensure that justice is done. That is the sheriff's primary duty. They are there to make sure justice is done. Nothing more. They're not henchmen for the judge or anything like that. They are there to make sure justice, to make sure people get their common law rights, which is ultimately trial by jury. Without trial by jury, there is no justice under common law.